Hello, and welcome back to the second part of my conversation with Dale L. Roberts, great friend of mine. And hopefully you listened to the first part, which is really good. He talks so much about his state of mind, his situation regarding where he was when he started his business. He's incredibly successful, and you can learn a lot from his material, which obviously I have on the show notes page, links to all his resources. You know, one of the things that I love about Dale is he's so in the moment. And he and I both roll that way. You know, it's like, this is not scripted. I don't have a list of questions. We just kind of hang out and start talking. In fact, before we even hit the record button, we'd already spent like 23 minutes just kind of just riffing. And he's like, you know, we could like be putting this in the episode. And I'm like, I know, I have to hit the record button. So we had a really great conversation. I wish we had more time, but this second part is really good because what I asked Dale to do was to be a little bit more prescriptive in that what he learned from his experience that he shared in the first episode, I want him to actually give some true advice and some prompts and have you look at your business regardless of where you are, whether you haven't started yet, whether you're in your first year, or whether you're 10 years in doing your one-person business. You can take away a lot from this conversation, especially the second part that I had with Dale. So please enjoy. Welcome to My Solopreneur Life. I'm Terry Pappy, your gracious host, and I am so glad you're here. I have a wonderful episode for you. Sit back, relax, and let's have some real talk about what it is to be a solopreneur. Okay, so where we left off in the first part of our conversation was you helped us understand your mindset, what happened, you know, when you started your business and the things that you went through, where you struggled, how you hired a business coach, and all the kind of mindset things that you were challenged with, as well as the good things that you were doing, and obviously getting support from your spouse, Kelly. What I'd like to do in our second part of the conversation, Dale, is I'd love for us to be a little bit more prescriptive. Given you've been through this, bringing kind of all those memories back from your first, starting, as my listener may be considering starting their own business, they may be in their first year two, or first year and a half like you. And they're at that point where they're like, oh, geez. Or there's someone who's been kind of maybe in business for 5-10 years and they kind of hit a plateau and they need kind of a kick in the pants. And what I'd love to ask you to talk about is let's take the person who's considering going and starting their own one-person business, whether they were just laid off or whether they are in a crap job that they want to leave and they've always wanted to do whatever, their passion or something that they've found interest. What are like one or two things that are most important for them to consider as they're considering starting this venture of a one-person business?
Few things that would probably be the best place to start is, are you able to financially support yourself if you're going all in? That's going to be the most important thing. And I need you to plan for a worst case scenario. Because if it turns out a best case scenario, guess what? You got a nest egg that you're able to kind of tap into should things ever get hairy again. But make sure that you're financially equipped to be able to handle that. If you're not able to financially handle that, think of the perspective of what can you put into it with sweat equity? And that means that what can you do without the financial situation? Can you be able to handle these things? Do you have the time to fulfill those needs? So yeah, money is going to be a big thing. But I think what you and I discussed in the previous episode was trying to know what you need to know. You need to be very well informed before you decide you're going to go ahead and burn the boats. Like, that's it. I'm all in. I want to do this whole thing. Do not set those boats on fire unless you know exactly what to do. So that third part, I think, is going to lead back to kind of what I said worked for me. Is this going to work for everybody? Probably not. It just depends. But get a mentor.
Hmm.
Find someone in the business, whether you pay them or you do favors for them, like you intern for them or something like that, or even mentors sometimes come in the way of podcasts or YouTube videos. It never has to be that direct mentorship, but as long as you have yourself a mentor to guide you in the right direction, great. If you can get that one-on-one attention, it's even better because that'll expedite your results.
Okay, so let's move into the next phase of solopreneurship, which is that
Yeah.
person in their first year or year and a half or two, and they're still not cutting it. Like you gave a great example of how you guys were getting mounting credit card debt. You were still working at it, but it just wasn't happening financially because why
Yeah.
are we in business? We need to make money and support ourselves.
Oddly
Duh.
enough,
Yeah, oddly enough, it's not just like then it's a hobby.
money.
If yeah, money.
Who
Imagine
needs
that.
money?
So let's say this solopreneur has started their business. They're officially all in. They've burned the boats. They're working hard. They may have some small successes that get them excited. But what is like one of your most, I mean, being with the background in health and fitness, there's so much around motivation and
Yeah.
inspiration. I'm a big inspiration person because motivation's like getting pushed from behind, right? Versus inspiration where you're being pulled.
Yeah.
And when you look at those ups and downs of the emotional roller coaster that comes with, am I going to make it? Is this going to work? Will
Mhm.
people hire me? Will people buy my stuff? Because solopreneurship is so lonely, you're isolated. You don't have a lot of feedback mechanisms in those early days. So,
So
what is
true.
something really powerful that you could share based on your experience that could help buoy that solopreneur who may be in those first struggle years, whether they be months, years, or what have you?
I love how you mentioned motivation and inspiration, that push and pull type situation. I like to have a little bit of both, but sometimes it's hard to keep that in fresh supply every single day. And especially if you're getting kicked, you know, if you're not having successes, it's like that's one kick. And you're not paying your bill on time, that's another kick. Those are just that's it slowly starts to wear thin, and no amount of motivation and inspiration will sometimes will drive you forward. But for me, I think a lot of my success stems back from my mentality of just show up.
Mm,
Just show up. Be consistent, even if you don't feel like it. There are times you just got to do it. And I often hear, and it's so funny, I want to bring up the whole writer's block. Some people sometimes say, it's like, how can you have writer's block when, a writer can't be able to write? They're stumped. They're staring at the cursor. Well, you can't have plumber's block. You can't have electrician's block. And I'm like, yeah, there's a little bit of creativity that's involved more on one of these than the other.
oh
There's so
my.
much more. But I mean, it is true though. I will show up. And even if I sit down and I write the worst dreg in the world, at least I showed up and I put
Yeah.
in an
And
effort.
you got in action, and action
Yeah,
kills negative thinking. I'm
it
telling you
it
every freaking
does.
time. Yeah.
It does. And it does give you some momentum if you're doing the
Mhm.
right actions to propel your business forward. That is the most important thing. I always, and even to this day, I'm very, very calculated about what I specifically do. And I have to look at everything I do. I go, does this benefit my business? Because if it doesn't benefit my business, it's wasting my time. I have to toss it out. I got to get rid of it because
Mm.
those small things can chip away at your day. I always refer to that as Ling Chi, death by a thousand cuts. It's an old torture method from Asia. And it's true. If you try to allow too many things to take you into too many directions, you're going to be lost. And I think that was something we discussed about fire hose and nozzle and being able to point towards
Yes.
the right direction. It
Yeah.
does make a huge difference.
Yeah, that's so powerful, Dale. And I think that that can even be applied at any time in the spectrum of being a solopreneur. And when
Mm.
you're looking, but there's also value in just taking a knee. Because sometimes we get so wrapped up in producing, being in action, moving things forward,
Yeah.
we forget to take care of ourselves. And that I fall into that trap sometimes where I get so face down, and I just got done a beautiful vacation for 2.5 weeks, and I'm coming back and I'm like, what's my name? Where do I
Yeah,
live?
yeah.
I mean,
Where
it
do I
was
even start?
exactly. And it was remarkable because we get so deep in our own stuff, producing, being in action, serving our customers and clients. And we
Yeah.
forget that sometimes we got to take care of us too. So taking
Yeah,
a knee is equally as important as taking that action step. But I mean,
absolutely.
taking a knee is being in action, right? So, but I love
Yeah.
what you said. And I think that's a great place for us to kind of wrap is taking a look at, because like I said, you can apply that to every action, every thought, every idea, every way you serve your customer, create that experience, every way you market, every way you do a prospect call. For those of us in the service business, that is so important to say, is this going to move my business forward? And
Yeah.
remember, you are the business.
Mhm.
So is it feeding me? Is it making me feel good to have this interaction, to talk about a particular goal in this way with a client or prospect? And so all of those things work toward moving the business forward, whether it's an
Yeah.
incremental thing or whether it's a big thing. So any final thoughts for my solopreneur that can really just kind of get them clicked into the right gear and adjust them like a chiropractic
Yeah.
adjust, and just kind of leave them with good things in addition to this wonderful series that we did together?
I think it's important that we need to address the fact that you're a solopreneur, but that doesn't mean that you have to be an island to yourself.
Yeah.
Networking, network. Connect with people. There's a beautiful energy exchange between Terry and myself every time that we get together, and we're usually bouncing ideas off of each other in business, and we leave
Totally.
with a little bit of that motivation and inspiration. Because then I look
Mhm.
at all the successes that you've had, and it inspires me. But in the same
Thank you.
instance, you're usually going, "Get at it, Dale," and I'm like, "Yeah." So then that motivates me, and I get all pumped up.
Yeah.
So just because you're a solopreneur doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself. Don't
Yeah.
isolate yourself. Get out, meet people. There's a great site called meetup.com. You can even go to other types of things like that. I'm sure there's Facebook groups out there that will probably be able to tell you those types of things.
Mhm.
There's even virtual places that you can be able to connect with people. Do that. It is so important, because if you just isolate yourself, you're going to burn out in due time.
Yeah.
And as you said, take a knee. Yes, that's a very important lesson. Let's not like push that aside. There's a good reason I have a mandatory 1 week vacation every quarter. I force myself
Excellent.
because it makes me more productive when I come back. So that is my final words: is just
Yeah.
network and definitely take a break. Don't be a crazy person. All right, you don't need to be like do that Gary Vaynerchuk grind until you die
Oh my
type thing.
goodness. Yeah. And I love that. And I love that you left that as our bookend to this conversation, because it's true. I mean, especially when we're trying to save money and bootstrap, we want to do a lot of things ourselves. And a lot of solopreneurs have to do it. And so, Dale, I can't thank you enough for another great conversation. And it's so good to see you. And we will definitely be having more conversations in the future. So, thank you so much for being here. And I love that we got to talk.
Thank you for your time.
Well, I know you're disappointed, but that's it for this episode. Listen, the great news is there's another one coming, so stay tuned. Anyway, I just want to make sure that you do the prompt if this episode had a prompt, and you get that homework done, because you're going to be a better solopreneur. How's that for a maternal finger shaking at you? Hey, listen, thanks so much for being here, for giving me time of your day, and, for taking it on. So if you want to learn more and stay connected with me, just head on over to mysolopreneurlife.com. Thanks a bunch. See you soon. That was pretty good. I think I'll keep that one. Bye.